Hey all, I have on the show today a prolific author and guest to the show, Dr. Morgan Jones, talking about his new book, Believe. The basis of this book is really looking at the belief aspects of leadership to really help create a culture of continuous improvement and innovation. The book launches very soon. It's going to be an amazing read for any leader or aspiring leader. The key concept is, are you brave enough to believe and really sink into this place where we can create these cultures? Really looking forward to this conversation. Let's get into the show.
Welcome to the Enterprise Excellence Podcast, where we aim to help create a better future. Learn from our world's experts how to improve and create enduring, high-performance, low-impact enterprises. Learn how to enhance morale, customer and purpose centricity, focus, and calmness. Learn how to create and sustain a culture of excellence at all levels of your organisation.
Welcome to episode 181 of the Enterprise Excellence Podcast.
It is such a pleasure to have Dr. Morgan Jones back on the show with us today. Morgan is a prolific author in all fields of excellence. He's been on the show 6 times now, set for the 7th, and for me, this is the pinnacle. Talking about Morgan's new book, Believe, the simple focus that will make your change and transformations truly sustainable. We're going to be exploring the linkages between what people do every day, their experiences, what this drives in belief, which drives your thinking, which ultimately drives your behavior. Really looking forward to this conversation. Morgan, thank you so much for joining us again, mate, to share your knowledge and help us create a better future.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to chat.
For sure, mate, for sure.
So, look, I suppose, let me start off by what was the inspiration behind writing the book?
Yeah.
Because, there's always a reason why you write them. Going back about 10 years or so, probably longer, I was asked to, closer to 15, go back and help fixing a safety issue in our Pacific Island facility. They couldn't get the local workers to wear PPE and personal protective equipment, even though it's mandated you must wear it in a work environment. They just wouldn't wear it, and I went. They said, "Well, Morgan, go fix." So I said, "Oh," and they said, "You might need a big bat." I said, "Well, no. I went and understand. I listened to them, and I asked them, we don't need it." So I asked them, the PPE. So I went and spoke to the villagers. I asked the village chiefs, and more importantly, the aunties. So if you're ever involved with Pacific Island nations, although you have a chief, it's actually run by the aunties, the female senior members of the village. And so I got really to understand what was important to them and what should be important to the people working, because they were bringing money in. And they actually said to me, "Morgan, it's quite simple. Their role is to provide for the village both today and in the future." So it's about providing. And I said, what happens if somebody gets injured or they can't work? So it was very, very simple. It was instead of going this compliance, you must, thou shalt. Australia says you will wear protective equipment. I actually got into this understanding of what was important to them. And after lots of consultation, a simple solution came down to adding a plastic pocket on their high-vis shirt with a picture of their family. And
Wow.
This is why I come to work. So you could see, even though there might be people from different villages, potentially different tribes, the reason they came to work is to provide for their family. And so it was that underlying belief, that if they became injured, they couldn't. So it was amazing. After the first day, they all just wore it. Started wearing it. The next day, day 2, everybody was wearing PPE all the time, gloves, stopping their hands, eyes, and ear protection, and safety boots.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting as you go there. Always made me smile, because as they got out to the compound of where the facility was, that most of them took their safety boots off. and start, wall bare feet, but it just made me smile that they actually did the right thing.
Yeah.
Because the chief had said, all you have to do is get the aunties to tell them to wear it, and they'll do as they're told. I sort of said, but that would have been a traditional compliance, you must. But when I got into what was it, the underlying belief for them to either want to wear the protective equipment or not. And as soon as we tapped into what was important to them and what they believed and what was important, it just became, they had injuries from 78%. There was always injuries to zero. It was like, they sort of said, is your data correct? They didn't believe. So that's the inspiration to go, if you get just a simple belief of why we do things, because Simon Sinek says always start with the why, but what often we do is tell people what they must do. You will do this. And we sometimes help them with the why, but it's quite often esoteric. It's quite separated for people on the front line, the why. It's actually making it real to them. So that's the inspiration of why I go there. And I've noticed over the years pockets of where CR has really stuck because they believe that continuous improvement makes it safer and more productive and better for them. So it all came down to that, really. So that's the inspiration behind the book and why.
I love it.
So
I love it, mate. And you look at it, Morgan, I love that statement you made that, sometimes as leaders we do try going with the why, but whose why is it? Like, are we actually connecting to the belief that purposeful driver of the actual people that need to alter the behavior? Well, what would you say, like when it comes to belief and discovering it with people, what's the best way of going about it, would you say, mate, to actually truly be able to sit in their shoes? Like you went and saw the aunties, you spoke to the villagers, you're able to actually understand that by those conversations. But what advice would you give?
Well, that's a really interesting one. So, you think about Michael Rother and Jeffrey Leica, the Toyota stuff. They have a Toyota say, what you focus on, what you do, and you make everybody do the same thing. And eventually it becomes a belief. Whereas interestingly, I think I don't believe in you must go and figure out the beliefs first. You start doing stuff and actually understanding the way work is designed and the way work is done. Once you've got that and you start to see where's the variation and understand that. So first thing is go and observe. Oh, this thing called Gemba. Go see, go learn, go and understand what's really happening and ask the people, why do they do it that way? Well, it's the way we've always done it. And then it's just start to explore rather than saying you're doing it wrong. Understand, so why do you do that? And you keep asking that why piece. Help me understand, and just using that simple humility stuff, help me understand. Why would I want to do it that way? Is that the best way? And you start to elicit. So what you want people to do is start doing the new behaviors or how you want them to start acting safer. And then you feed the belief in. Because sometimes you say, oh, you must believe. And if you get forced down, you will believe and this is what you must think. People will resist because it's brainwashing. So you started doing stuff, which is wonderful. Now, let's just explore, why are we getting so much variation? What do you believe? What do you believe? Why is it important? And you explore. So for me, I always believe in doing stuff and then looking for the variation and then discussing what's the variation and never saying, so if we're going to get a new person to come into this team, how would we onboard them? What would we want? If it was your son or your family member coming in or your daughter, what would you like? And then that usually breaks down the belief piece, because it's very uncomfortable for engineers and technical people. That's feeling you fluffy stuff, because most people don't really understand what they believe. What should we believe? And once you've got that belief and linked to the behavior, then you can start to see whether the felt experience, and this is the other piece in the book I talk around, you can actually define these are the ideal behaviors and this is how you must act. And that's quite often driven by charter values. But you've actually got to be human focused and actually understand and go, help me understand. Is there, why do you do it that way? Is there any other way to do it? What would you need to believe to do it that new way? And that's the way. It's actually softly, and being a human-centered focus.
Yeah, it's great, mate. Like I know, well, we had Dr. Mark Williams on the show, and he spoke about how at the heart of everyone we have a core purpose. Whether we know it or not, or we've actually discovered it. But I guess you're saying there, like with you and the Islanders, you're able to go and discover that core purpose, or the core belief. But you're saying like through softly, you can actually start to influence it. I'm guessing through that social position that we start to alter what we believe in certain aspects as we repeat it and we start to do it over and over again.
Yeah, and I just made me laugh. You said when the chief said, all you have to do is get the aunties to tell them to do it, and they'll do as they're told. And that just made me laugh, because that's a classic of what we'd normally do. So that's the story of why. And if you look in the book, I have 3 parts to it fundamentally. The first part is around the belief framework. And I'll take you on a journey. The first part is I'll call the outward circle. So that's the stuff we do in the real world. You have results, you deliver to customer, you have behaviors and tools is what you do every day to deliver results. So you have a circle. And, as you start to get more positive feedback from your results and you get better results, the more you reinforce your behaviors. And there may be variation, but that's what normally happens. So that's what I call the outward circle. So that's what we all see in the real world. And then, which is, if you look at Shingo is very strong in that behavioral. It's quite an academic model. And, whereas if you look at Toyota Carter, they look at, okay, it's all about what you do to deliver the results. So you could almost swap partly the behaviors element for in Toyotas to, daily activities, what you say and what you do. So that's the first part. So that's chapter 1. I introduce the outward circle. And then I was influenced by a book by the Arbinger Institute called The Outward Mindset. And this is, well, okay, great. That's my behavior is what I do and the rest of the world, what you would see. What's actually happening in my head to actually get me to do that behavior? And that's where my thinking, my beliefs, and my values, and these elements are quite important, because sometimes we have subconscious thought and what we call a habit. So behaviors can become a habit because you've done it so many times, you don't need to think about it. It's like when you're driving a car, you don't often think about using the indicator because you're so used. So it's a semi-automatic action. But really to reinforce, so as you get positive affirmation of the behaviors and the actions, what you do, you start to go, oh, I believe maybe I can believe in this. So I always use the example as continuous improvement. And they always say, oh, you've got to generate ideas because we want to hear your ideas so we can implement them. But, so if you people generate ideas, but unless they start getting implemented, their belief was, oh, we've done this in the past and and that's never going to happen again, because every time we give you ideas, you ignore them. So you go, oh, okay. So you implement the first one. Doesn't mean you changed your belief. You go, oh, okay, I'll chalk that down. It takes usually 5 to 7 times for you to prove this new behavior to actually challenge your own internal belief. Maybe they are serious about our ideas. So you need to see at least 5 to 7 ideas generated by your team implemented before you go, maybe this is a new way. We can start to believe in the organization. We can believe in our leader. And then that drives your thinking to go, oh, maybe I could generate new ideas. Therefore, it drives the behavior, which drives results for customers.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's the first part. That's that belief framework. So, that links everything together to doing things every single day, making them a habit. You need to believe. And we start to unpack what that belief piece looks like. So that's part 1.
It's sort of like they're looking at cause and effect, isn't it? It's like, okay, well, this new thing's going to happen. What's the actual effect? Does it actually result in anything that actually helps myself or helps my customer? And there's that trigger of it, I guess that BS meter that's going of what actually is going to happen here. And like you're saying, Morgan, if you see it enough over 5 to 7 times, you might be like, wow, this is different. Actually, this is actually serious. This is actually going to alter things. Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah. So that's part one. And then what I do in this middle part of the book, I talk around taking that belief framework and applying it to. Remember, I did a talk to you about 4+1 a long while ago. So the operating system I generated at CBA.
Yeah.
And so what I've done, I've actually, because I was challenged by a senior leader, said, "Well, Morgan, you wrote that 10 years ago. Why haven't you updated it?" And I went, "Ooh, good challenge." So I actually did, and I've updated it. It's called 4+2. So what I actually did convert is the diagram looks almost exactly the same. But what I actually have spent a lot of time doing is applying that belief. What do I need to believe for each of the habits to truly become a habit? So Gemba, I changed from Gemba to Lean Leader Walks because a lot of people don't like Japanese language in Australia. And then I also created the next one, which is strategy deployment. So getting a much stronger alignment so people know why they're doing their activities delivered to the results, both short term and long term. So I apply that thinking of the belief to the original operating system. It's now called 4+2. So I go through in depth for each of the habits and how would you establish the beliefs for each one of those, and what do you need to do to go to the next space. So that's number one. That's number two, part two. Sorry, and then the third part, I have a coaching framework, and it's a wheel that I've had, and it's got 6 elements. It's about really understanding what your role is, as a leader or as a leadership team. What are your actions? And what are your words? And more importantly, are your words and actions congruent? Your knowledge, is it growing? Are your decisions based on fact? Are they inclusive? And then the last piece, which is probably the most challenging thing for leaders and teams, to say, is your team aligned and committed? And most people say, yes. How do you know? They just nod their head because you've asked them. Doesn't mean they're committed. So what are they doing when you're not around to show they're committed to each other and the result? So it's a framework I've had probably going for about 15 years. I keep trying to improve it, and I can't. I've failed. It seems to work really well. So that's part 3. And then I apply it. So the rest of the book, I sort of apply it to a number of case studies. So there was applying that thinking to an aged care centre, to financial services, to a government department, to an organization, to poultry farming, and to printing and logistics. So I've showed how elements, not all three, not everyone is using all 3, but they're using either one or 2 parts of it to improve their business. And then when I finish up in the book, at the end of it, going, these are all great and sounds really good. And you can actually articulate beliefs, like people have the chart of values of the organization. Here's our values as Amazon or Commonwealth Bank of Australia or American Express, doesn't matter. The important thing is that you've articulated the behaviors you want and what people should believe, and you get the norms, the beliefs. But the important thing is the felt experience reinforcing the belief? Now, go back to that thing about ideas generated. If they believe that when they generate ideas, they get implemented, but if their felt experiences, every idea they put in has never been implemented, the experience is not reinforcing the desired belief. Therefore, the belief will never stay. Yeah. So the important thing is that experience. So if you go back to, sort of Richard Branson. So Richard Branson in Virgin, he sort of said he focuses on staff experience, because if he gets the staff experience right, that will drive the belief of customer experience and delivers the behaviors and the results. So he focused on the felt experience of staff members. So that's probably a quick run through.
Yeah. I love it. And on it, Morgan, with that behavior, like, it's great that you brought in that coaching element on leadership, which really hones in on not what you say, but what you do. So I was able to interview myself, a great coach, Wayne Bennett, recently, and actually write a case study on him. And he has this famous saying, Wayne, which is, it really words are pointless. It's what people see you do and how you make them feel that counts. And that do is very much about the action, but the feel is very much about how do you connect to their belief, isn't it? Like how is what you do actually connecting to their purpose and their values and who they are, which is so true.
That's a lovely quote from Wayne. And it aligns to one of the quotes I use in the book. It's some people have attributed to Winston Churchill, but it's not. It doesn't sound like Winston Churchill, but there's no evidence he ever said it. However, if you look and there's a guy called Stephen Dunbar. He was co-author of Freakonomics, and what he said is, "I don't listen to what people say. I watch what they do. Behaviors don't lie, and that tells me what they believe."
Mm. Yeah, too true.
So it's exactly what, if you look at what Wayne said, he brought in the feeling piece, but that's, for me, what sort of underpins. And I was talking to somebody about this whole piece about belief, and he said, "Oh, it's like you got magic fairy dust." I said, "Yeah, because it's only a little thing. If you just ask the question, what do you need to believe to make that happen, whether it's change or transformation or anything else? What do we need to believe?" And is my experience reinforcing that belief? Because that's where, if you look at change, it's not the big thing, it's the little bits. The system isn't designed to make it easy for you. So do you really care about my work and my, how I feel, my psychological safety? Because it's stressful. So that's, yeah.
And I guess it's a danger too, Morgan, isn't it? Where you've got organizations that will plaster things up on the wall, but it's a lived experience of the behaviors around them and what they perceive people believe that's truly going to make the difference or not. It can actually cause more damage, isn't it? When things are written up on a wall, but the lived experience is completely opposite. That just causes so much damage.
Yeah, and it's one of the organizations, Abbott Nutrition, they have 6 core values across the whole organization. And they really live it. Amazon got 10, but they talk about it every week, every performance review, everything. They talk every single day. They talk about it, they bring it to life. It's that, what's the underlying belief? Really understanding. And they go back to the Abbott industry. So they have different colors for each of the 6 values or behaviors. And the next thing we know is every month they'll focus on one of those. So you do it twice a year. You're focusing. It might be, I drive continuous improvement. So there's a big focus about how many, delivering an improvement, getting your improvement engine working. The following month, maybe another. So it's quite interesting. So you're always reinforcing by doing. You're doing to reinforce so therefore the felt experience reinforces the behavior, reinforces the behaviors that deliver the results. So you got the belief.
I know. And with it, when I've sat with some great leaders before where big decisions have been made and, they pause and go, okay, let's just look to our purpose and our values here. Like, let's look to that and think about that as we make this decision. And to me, that was such a great technique where you're actually pausing and like looking at those things, those artifacts, to then go, what's the right path here? And it's it's so important, isn't it? Bringing it to life all the time, but using it as that point of actually thinking, considering.
Yeah. So I was, at the exchange overnight with Jeffrey Leica, and he said if you took Mike Rother's book about the Toyota Kata, the old model is change the thinking to change the behavior. And that's quite classic. That's what, if you look at a lot of change model, you've got to get people thinking this way so they do this. It's quite an old one. So, so it drives what you do. Whereas the new model is change the behavior to influence the belief to change the thinking. So what you're actually doing is getting people to do it the new way first. Then you get the belief, and therefore it actually reinforces thinking. It seems, so it's bottom up rather than top down.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love Morgan too, I guess, for all of us in this field of continuous improvement and transformation. We've been involved in it for so long, but I guess it's what's led us this path where it's all exploring human behavior, human thought, human belief, because it's basically down, in a way, it's to the individual to then win over the team, to win over the organization, isn't it? But it all comes back to what goes on in our mind a lot of the time is predominantly what plays out here, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Morgan, with your belief system, you've got the outer circle and you've got the inner circle, which is the outer circle is all about the results and the behaviors, which then connects the inner circle, which is around the mind, which comes to thinking, beliefs, and values. Yep. And then you got 4+2, which is really those key habits in the organization. And then you go to the piece of coaching, which is a big part that the leader plays in this whole journey to get it right. What would be your tip for a leader, Morgan, who's looking to truly get some results happening in their organization and get moving forward, build that agility, build that continuous improvement piece, considering belief?
I would sort of, the operating system is really good, 4+2. I'd focus on the improvement engine, the 3 habits. Huddle, sort of, you have a visual board, drives conversation, you do improvement and you lock it in. So that improvement engine, just start doing some little things. Just do an improvement for the day. Make today better than yesterday. Because most time people think CI needs to be big and discontinuous, massive transformation, whereas it's micro improvements. So the advice is start doing lots of micro, and they start to believe that they can improve. So their day job is about improving their day job. So that's what I do is start with that. The piece of advice, always start with doing some small ones and ask them what they believe now once they start to see some improvements. And what would they like to see next? So you start to inspire that improvement engine, not just at the ground level, but okay, what would you like to see at the next level? What would you see your executives do? What would you, and then that's where the belief starts to come in. Rather than executives telling them you must do all the work, it's that, come and have a look.
Yeah. So like what you're saying, Morgan, there's behaviors above the front line that they're going to look to truly figure whether this is serious or not, whether they're going to believe in it. Like you say, does senior leadership take any interest in what we're doing, or is there any conversation there? But then I'm guessing with the leader above them, there's sort of some things like, do they actually give us some time to do an improvement or get to the root cause of a problem? Do they just take those problems off of us and just not let us actually own anything still? Do they tell us just to get back to work? Like, I guess there's a number of behaviors that would either make you believe that this is serious or make them believe, no, this is just rubbish.
Yeah, that was really interesting. I watched that at a facility internationally where they didn't want to take production staff off production to improve. So they actually delegated all improvement to a quality improvement team. So they did all the work and solved it. So they did some really good ones, but they disempowered the front line. So the leaders thought they were driving improvement, and that the belief was continuous improvement was happening. But you ask the frontline operators, and they go, "No, it's not. We don't see any of it." So that link to go. So what would you like to see? Well, we'd like to improve some of these. Oh, but you need to produce. Well, we have times where we could do that. Oh, and it's really interesting. But I started to ask that question. They went, we thought we were so focused on operational, getting people bums on seats to move widgets. That was their job. And then somebody else would fix it. And they go, well, actually, why don't you involve them more? Give them a bit of time. Is it pre-shift, or take one person off the line to go and get involved in the improvement? Things like that.
Yeah. The risk with those quality teams in that regard too, Morgan, isn't it? Is that they can start believing that their ideas for improvement are so powerful and they just drive home whatever change they want, but can totally miss the proper engagement at the front line. It can go out of control. I've seen that same scenario myself many times. It's simple, but it's not easy, isn't it, mate? Like, there's all this stuff it's so simple when you think about it, but it's not easy for people to actually fully achieve.
Well, what you just said just made me smile. I'm showing my age. So many years ago, there was Atari games. And they said it was easy to learn, hard to master. And that's what we do. It's this stuff, some of this, doing the beliefs and doing CI, doing PDC, is easy to start. It's hard to be a master at it. So you've got to continue to seek to get better rather than, oh, we've achieved it now. You always think it's a destination, where it's a journey.
Yeah. And there'll be bumps and troughs and ups and downs over that journey as you go through it. Well, sorry, mate.
I got one more point thing. So it was interesting when I go back. I was just thinking of that belief framework. I got the outer circle and inner circle. And even when I did 4+1, it did start off, I quote in the book, the Karate Kid. And, you talk about Mr. Miyagi telling you, wax on with one hand and wax off with the other. So you have one circle, and the wax on is the external world, is action, what you're doing. The wax off is actually how do you make it shine and look good. It's actually when you build it internally and you make that a habit. So it always makes me smile. I was thinking, I can't keep quoting Karate Kid in my books.
It's a classic. It's a classic, especially when you think about habit and everything else that plays out there. So, Morgan, what's been a recent insight for you, like out of this journey, looking into belief and all the behavioural piece? What's been the biggest insight that you've gained through this journey that you've been on for this new book?
It's making it simple. The thing for me is, if belief requires clarity, and when you boil it down to simple human things rather than technical and technology, and this is going to save the world. What's it going to do for us today? Making for me, the learning is making it sort of meaningful to every individual. And what's meaningful to Brad is different to Morgan. So actually understanding your team and talking to them, and therefore as a team, what's meaningful to us as a team, not just as individuals. So that was the piece of learning there for me, is how do you get individual needs and beliefs aligned to as a team, and team norms and things like that.
Yeah, because ultimately it's that collective of the people that will create the culture of the team, isn't it, when it comes down to it?
It is.
Well, we really appreciate you writing this book on belief and bringing such good content in to help us all going forward. How can people reach out or get hold of the book upcoming to be able to really go deeper?
Well, it'll be up on Amazon 25th of September. There'll be some promos coming out, but it's out with a lot of senior leaders, reading it, giving feedback to make it better. So, you first draft, send it out, get lots of feedback. You go, oops, I need to improve. And then it'll go through the publishing process. So it'll be up on the all good bookshelves on the 25th of September.
Oh, that's great, mate. Well, Morgan, thank you again, mate. Thanks for everything you have done and everything you continue to do to help us learn and create a better future. Really appreciate your time again today, mate.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Morgan. Bye for now.
Bye.
What a great episode. I must say I'm brave enough to believe in the creation of cultures of continuous improvement and innovation through absolute respect and amazing leadership that is happening out there throughout the world. The two key takeaways for me is really firstly the power of belief, and leaders and employees really leading into this place of believing and creating these great cultures and respect for people and empowering and engaging and getting that absolute focus on customers. To really make it happen, you do have to get under the hood and get to that true belief position in it, to truly believe and want it before your behavior will actually exude the ideal outcomes to truly get it. What a great concept. What a great topic to write on. The second key takeaway for me was the importance of coaching and our coaching approach to actually help enable this as leaders. Coaching with that belief, which then brings out our ideal behaviors, and people experience those ideal behaviors to truly help create a culture of respect, innovation, continuous improvement. Morgan, thanks again for writing such a great book that's going to help so many. Really appreciate your time, knowledge and support in helping us create a better future. Bye for now.